Jay Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, Tyvis Powell, Jason Lloyd. Plus, ba-da-da-da-da, you're loving him, Mikey McNuggets. And so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show starts now. Booyah.
If you're going to come up with challenges, you better come big.
Hey, what's the challenge out there?
Repeat your challenge.
Hey, listen, let me know in the chat if you like it, put a 1. If you say no, you ain't going to do it, put a 2. Could you, for $200,000 a year, go to work in a dark room, pitch black, for 8 hours?
Oh, every day.
Oh,
every
you
day.
didn't say that the first time. You just said like a one-time.
Oh, not a one-off. No, this is an everyday job.
No, I couldn't do that.
Not for a whole year. No.
So the way Bull and I heard it was, could you do it one time for $200,000? I'm like, 8 hours for $200,000 in the dark?
Easy.
That's child's play.
But I wouldn't do it for a whole year.
Every day? No, you'd go crazy.
I'd lose my mind.
You'd go crazy.
200, no taxes.
Okay, what about this? Could you sleep?
Yes, you can sleep.
Okay, then I would just turn that into my sleeping.
I guess you would just be up at midnight. You could sleep.
Okay, then I might be able to do that.
I don't know. That'd be tricky.
That's still rough.
When are the hours? Does it have to be overnight, or can it be?
No. It's 8 to 4.
No. Because then you're a vampire.
Well, I did that for a while when I was working in New York. I would work a lot of overnights for a time, and then I'd sleep during the day. And you could never, when you have that schedule, maybe other people that do it for years get used to it.
Yeah.
For me, I would sleep like 3-4 hours. I couldn't sleep.
I did it on cold pizza when I was getting up at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
I never got used to it.
Never.
It's not normal.
No.
I had a meeting with. You guys remember Bryant Gumbel?
Yeah, of course. What do you mean?
Well, listen, young kids today don't know him.
We ain't that young.
True. But our executive coordinating producer used to be the executive coordinating producer of the Today Show, so he hooked us up. And he said, you're going to have a million questions on how to manage a morning show and your life. Here's Bryant's number. And he was awesome. We talked for like an hour.
Yeah.
And he said, don't ever expect it to get normal, because it never is. Getting up at 3 in the morning is not normal.
No.
And it never becomes your normal.
Apparently, he and his brother do not like each other.
I've heard that before. I can't confirm that.
How?
I know.
Probably professional animals.
I heard it from somebody that actually worked with Greg Gumbel. Because Greg, when the Fan in New York first started, Greg Gumbel briefly worked on the Fan.
Yeah.
And one of the other guys that worked there that just recently retired in the last couple of years, I became friendly with when I was working there, and he said, they didn't like each other.
It's interesting. Very interesting. Welcome to the show. Hey,
what's
happy
up?
Friday. It's Good Friday if you're of the faith. We hope you enjoy your holiday weekend if that's what you do. Bull, great to see you. This is the OG3.
It is.
When was the last time the OG3 did a show?
We was just talking about it.
I think we did one like 2 weeks ago.
Did we?
3 weeks ago.
Maybe on a Friday, I think, perhaps.
It's only been once since I went on vacation, which was a month ago now at this
rare
point.
Now.
So.
It's very rare.
Yeah.
Happy New Year, everybody. Baseball is back. Were you like me yesterday all day long? Someone could have come up to me yesterday, punched me square in the face, and I would have looked at them and said, that's cool. Happy New Year.
I was in a great mood. I watched baseball in the afternoon when I went home. I then we had our Little League draft.
Oh,
really
wow.
We set the teams.
Yeah.
Then I came home, watched the Cubs and Rangers, and then I thought it was going to end perfectly.
That was a great game.
It went to extra innings, so I was going back and forth in the first inning of the Guardians game, and then I watched the Guardians game. But the Guardians game, even though there were 8 runs, flew by.
Yeah,
220
it did.
to 25.
That's the kind of – and
Love that
what's
game.
weird, that because there was 8 runs, but Shane Bieber, even though he had a high strikeout total, was efficient, was throwing strikes.
He was lights out.
We're going to talk all about that in just a little bit. First, it's weird when I look behind the glass and I don't see either Ant or McNuggets, but Earl's in the pilot chair.
Holding it all the way down.
Director Steve, as always, is behind the director's seat. But Earl, good morning to you.
I feel like Beyonce. Just me, myself, and I.
So you have no help back there. Like
Nothing.
if you need someone to look something up, no.
You're out of luck. We're out of luck today.
Wow.
I did have the office to myself. That was beautiful. You know, I had the rap music blasting this morning as I was getting the work done. So
now let me ask you this.
Different.
Do you guys, like in the 90s, the Indians used to have titanic battles over control of the music in the clubhouse?
Sure, yeah.
And Albert Belle in particular liked his certain style of music. He did not like what some of the other guys played in there, and they were constantly battling for control of the knobs.
I'm surprised anybody stood up to Albert Belle.
I can say that more often than not, it was let Albert have his way.
Yeah.
His nickname for a while was Mr. Freeze because I think the story goes he liked it super cold in the clubhouse.
Right.
And the temperature was being ratcheted up so everybody else could be comfortable.
Yeah.
And the legend is, and I've never confirmed this, but I've heard it from several people, the legend is he took a baseball bat to the thermostat in the Progressive Field, then Jacobs
It fits
Field
the
clubhouse.
profile. I don't know if it's true. But
Jason interviewed Albert Belle.
right, yeah.
I'm working on a series upstairs at Channel 3 for May where I'm going to sit down. This is the 30th year, the 30th anniversary of the turnaround of
Sure.
Indians baseball.
Yeah.
They went 40 years where they were just abysmal. They won it, of course,
Right.
in '54, the American League pennant. And then they didn't do anything
Useless
again
for 40 years.
For 40
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
And so I want to get together with 4 or 5 of the key figures involved in that Indians team, and obviously
Yeah.
we know who they are. Albert Belle
Sure.
is chief among them.
Yeah.
So I've been having some email correspondence back and forth with them. He's still as cantankerous as ever.
Yeah.
His first response to my email is, "How'd you get my email?"
So you
And
got,
I'm like, he hasn't changed after all these
so I
years.
assume you got Tommy locked in?
Tommy, Lofton,
Yeah. He can be
Sandy
a little
Alomar.
crabby too, Lofton.
Lofton was as a player, but I have to
Yeah.
tell you, I've interviewed him a number of times
Yeah.
since, and he has mellowed, and I'm glad to see it.
Yeah.
I think Albert was a negative influence on Kenny. I used to, and I'm not kidding, I was a young reporter then. I used to be terrified to go into that clubhouse after an ugly loss.
And Eddie Murray wasn't no walk in the park.
No, Eddie Murray was
Eddie
another
Murray
one.
was not playing. He was older, so
Yeah.
he was like, listen.
It really was like the murderer's row of
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
anti-media. It was a tough team to cover.
Baerga was
Baerga
the
friendly.
best.
He was
Yeah.
tough to understand. His
Yes,
English
that's
wasn't
true.
great then. It's gotten better since.
Yeah.
But so anyhow, yeah, I don't know if that story is true.
Yeah.
If you're a member of the Indian staff and you can confirm that Mr. Free story, it's legendary.
Yeah.
And I can see him doing it. It's definitely on brand.
Absolutely.
So busy show. We're going to talk a lot about the Guardians' home opener last night, or season opener rather, and then we're going to get into some Browns issues and also the Cavs. Donovan Mitchell's coming back. Boy, do they need him.
Oh, God.
I was talking
They're
with Jimmy
disaster.
Donovan on Channel 3 Wednesday about the Jekyll and Hyde that they are when he's in the lineup and when he's not.
Yeah, they're awful without him.
And the fact that Dan Gilbert, who never speaks,
Right.
comes out and says, hey, I expect him to, like, that's almost like, you know how the wise guys would say, I expect you to sign this contract.
It almost puts pressure, doesn't it?
Yeah,
I said, whoa,
You're
is that a
skeptical?
threat?
I'm
I think-
skeptical
We'll
as
get to
that.
that.
Yeah,
we'll get
yeah,
to that.
yeah.
But there are breadcrumbs along this trail now that
we'll see.
Now look, he
We
could
all hope it
resign and they
happens.
could trade him,
That's true.
and he has more value to the Cavaliers in that scenario.
That's true.
So that is also a possibility.
That's right.
I'll get excited when I hear key personnel from the Cavaliers saying he's going to be in a Cavaliers uniform.
Yeah, right. That's true.
Moving forward.
Yeah, right.
And we haven't heard that yet. Okay, a lot of fun last night. We have to do a read first, right, before we dive into the Guardians. So, Earl, I'll pass it back to you, and then we'll dive into the Guardians. My bad.
All right, let's get into it. Say goodbye to busted brackets because FanDuel lets you bet on every game of the tourney, whether you're betting on big upsets or a 1 seed. It's time to go dancing on America's #1 sports book. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's $200. Use on-point spreads, money lines. You can even pick who's going to win it all. Just visit FanDuel.com/UCSS and bet on all college hoops until they cut the nets down.
Is anybody daring to bet against UConn?
Yeah.
Be hard.
This is the most boring tournament
I have
men's season I've ever seen in my life.
I have very little interest.
There's no
in it.
drama.
Yeah.
They and I even thought I was gonna put a little spread. I bet that San Diego State would cover 11.5, and it wasn't even close.
No. I mean, they had that in 6 minutes.
My goodness.
Another 30-point win. The question now is, I saw them debating this yesterday on ESPN. The question isn't are they going to win. The question is anybody going to play them within single digits?
That probably would be one close.
Jay Williams firmly believes no.
Yeah.
Seth Greenberg, who I know and love and work closely with for a long time, said that he thinks that perhaps Illinois, with the way they play,
we'll see.
more upbeat tempo, that they could possibly play them within 10. But I think the drama's gone. I think they're going to punch their ticket all the way for 2 in a row. All right, I'm going to let you start. I know you're pent up and ready to go about this Guardians team. What's your reaction?
And
from
first
last
of all, listen. Before the game, I was not happy with the lineup. I didn't like that. Bo Naylor was not in the lineup, and in fact, so everybody when I put that out there, it was like, well, he's going to be Bieber's personal catcher.
No.
They said no.
Yeah,
Stephen
that's not true.
Vogt told Hammy, because I was listening to Hammy last night. I was watching the game. I synced it up.
Right.
And he said that Stephen Vogt specifically said there's no personal catcher.
Yeah.
That he just wanted Hedges to play 2 of the first 4 games. All right. I'd still like Naylor in the lineup. Now, I would have put him in for Fry, but Fry had a great game.
I loved your it's funny when you look back on things. You're like,
of course.
You were concerned about the middle of the lineup in Bull with good reason. There's
Yeah.
not a lot of punch there.
Well, I didn't like Laureano hitting 3rd.
Right.
I wanted Jimenez higher up in the lineup. But in the end, great game by the Guardians.
Sure.
They did everything right. They played very well on defense. They had that 1 inning when they scored a bunch of runs. They got helped by that Austin Hedges ground ball, which they scored a hit, but I thought that was an obvious error.
E3.
Yeah, well, it wasn't. They gave him a hit, but only 1 RBI. They gave the first baseman the air, which was surprising
to me. It's the throw.
I thought it was the throw,
Yeah.
too. The throw clearly pulled him off the bag.
Right.
Look,
But
Oakland,
whatever.
there's a lot of crazy stuff going on in Oakland. That scoring decision was like the least crazy thing from last night, because if you were watching the game, the one shot that is going to be burned in my mind forever. Oakland's a great baseball town. In the 70s, they won World Series. They were always competitive. There was a protest. When they took the opening shot in the telecast last night, I'm like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
I mean, the stands were empty.
The official attendance was 13,000.
And this is the day where everybody sells out.
Weren't they booing at the end of the game?
Well, what happened, they were booing, but what happened was there was an organized protest. That fan base has been very organized throughout the turmoil over the last couple of years.
Those people.
They're great fans.
Yeah.
The city of Oakland has been playing hardball with the owner. The owner is out to lunch, doesn't know what he wants to do. It's rumored that they're going to build a new facility in Vegas for them, and they're going to move the team there. Although I wouldn't bank on that yet.
Yeah.
But what was crazy was they showed during the game a wide shot of the stadium parking lot.
Yeah.
It was packed.
Right.
And all the fans were there having their own party. The protest was, we're going to go.
Yeah.
And we're going to express our displeasure by not going in to watch the game.
Yeah,
so
they were
basically
celebrating
listened to it on their radio.
And the team is terrible.
Wow.
I mean, it's a terrible
it's
team.
a minor league team.
Yeah, and so I feel bad for those fans, and I don't know where they're going to play next year. They may play in Sacramento.
That's
they may
a
play in minor
possibility.
league park the next.
Yeah.
So
That's
who
terrible.
knows? But the best thing about the game last night, and again, I know the A's lineup is a minor league lineup. There's no debating that.
Yeah.
But it was just how Shane Bieber looked.
Right.
I mean, he looked like Shane Bieber again.
Regardless of who he was doing.
Regardless, yes,
His
he's going to be
movement,
even more
his
dominant
velocity.
against a bad lineup.
Sure.
But he looked phenomenal. I mean, he was on point. He had great pace. He had great movement. He had everything was right for him. And that was great to see, because if the Guardians, who look to me like, on paper is a middling team because their lineup has question marks, if they're going to win this division, which is possible because nobody in this division is that good, it's going to be on the shoulders of the pitching led by Shane Bieber. They've got to be great, because the Guardians have the best rotation in this division. And if they're going to make the playoffs, the rotation's got to be great. It's got to live up to its potential.
Right.
And it starts with Bieber, and it started great last night because he was absolutely lights out. They could have thrown him another inning. I think Vogt made the right call.
I was screaming one more.
I know. I always want to see
Because his pitch count was so low.
I know. I get why he did. They had a big enough lead that he was like, all right, let's get some
And
of the
because
bullpen.
of the injury last year.
But I'm with you. When I have a horse like Bieber, I want him to pitch as much as he can.
Yeah.
Also,
I think because there was no drama in the game, he wanted to get some bullpen work.
Absolutely.
I totally get it.
Yes.
I understand the 6 innings. I wouldn't even second guess that decision. I'm just saying, as a pitcher,
Yeah,
and
you
as
wanna
someone
see him
who
go another
you
inning.
got to drag off the mound.
Yeah.
I think he wanted another inning.
absolutely.
And I, as a fan, wanted to see it for another inning.
He was pitching pissed off. It was this smoldering thing. I'm watching the game. I'm staying up late watching it. And there's something to be said for somebody who won't pay you what you feel you're worth. And I thought, when I saw him pitch, there's 2 things that stuck out. First of all, shout out to you for getting you a changeup. How do you just go? He just comes in and just says, you know what, let me just develop a new pitch. You can speak to how difficult that is later on in your career. Not only did he give you the changeup, his off-speed pitch had crazy just movement on it. It was dancing everywhere. For it to be April, I don't know how warm it was out there, but I know what it feels
It
like
was
in that
chilly.
bay.
Yeah,
It was chilly.
For his ball to have that level of movement in the first outing was crazy, and it was going like this. This was like playoff Bieber. Like, I'm like, these guys are getting mowed down one after another. So right now, he put everybody on watch. I'm out here. I'm working on my game. I feel like I'm still a top flight pitcher. And the whole season, he set it up where what we're going to be like is, this is kind of hard to get rid of a guy who's throwing the ball like this. If he continues to throw like that, it's difficult for any organization to say, let's put him on the block. He's going to make it difficult because when this right here, that's Cy Young Bieber. He looked like he was 2-3 years removed right here.
They had a lot of bad swings, Oakland, and even their 4 hits, like I think only one was hard hit. It was a few bloopers.
2 of them were opposite field.
Bloops.
To that point, Bull, after the first 3 outs, he struck out the side.
Yeah.
I said, watching at home, he could throw a no-hitter tonight. And that's going to leave Stephen Vogt in a really precarious position. Because the Cleveland Guardians are the franchise that are on the clock in terms of no-hitters.
That's crazy.
They haven't thrown a no-hitter since Len Barker's perfect game in 1981.
81.
Which is mind-blowing.
82,
it's mind-blowing that it's been that long.
Yeah.
They've had a couple of close calls. But I initially, and I'm always this guy, by the way. My son laughs when we watch games together. After the first 3 outs are made, I'll go, no-hitter. He's like,
he had that kind of stuff last night. No doubt.
I believe that with the kind of stuff that he had and the lineup that he was facing,
that factor,
that Stephen Vogt could have been in a really difficult position in the 7th, 8th, and 9th innings because as he watched his starter, who's coming off injury last year, get into a deep pitch count situation, but he has a no-hitter, you can't take him out. The only no-hitter thrown in the history of Major League Baseball on opening day was done by Bob Feller with the Cleveland Indians.
I didn't realize
so to have an opportunity to go into that kind of stratosphere, Stephen Vogt would not have been able to pull him out.
No.
So early in the 2nd inning, when they got the cheap base hit the other way, I immediately said, I'm sure Vogt wasn't even thinking that way yet. But I'm like, well, that takes one really difficult decision off Vogt's plate.
Well, that's the type of lineup, too, because not only are they bad, but they're young, so they're going to be overly aggressive.
Sure.
And Bieber's throwing strikes, so they're going to be anxious not to get in an 0-2 hole. And they were swinging the bat, for the most part. I think he walked one guy.
He did have one walk. 11 Ks. He's now he joins a group of about 5 or 6 other pitchers.
Right.
All of them who are going to the Hall of Fame or in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Who has double-digit strikeouts on 3 different opening day occasions. For whatever reason, and everybody gets amped up on opening day. You want the baseball in your hands to start the season. So all the pitchers are aces or A-plus front of the rotation guys. Right. He's now one of about 5 guys that is second on that list. Only one pitcher has 4 times on opening day had double-digit strikeouts. Bieber rose to the occasion and did it again.
Part of the reason, especially nowadays, why it's rare, even though there's aces going, is because guys don't pitch that many innings.
True.
Back when you were a kid, when I was a kid, the opening day starter would go the distance quite often.
Yeah.
But nowadays, it's hard to get double-digit strikeouts early in the season because they're extra cautious. If that start happened in the summer, he would have gone the 7th inning.
He would have, for sure, because he would have been stretched out by then.
Right. But
funny you said that about the complete games.
Yeah.
In getting ready for this series on the 94 Indians, I was doing some research about some things that stood about that team. You'll remember what stands out about 94 was they didn't have a World Series that year.
Right, of course, yeah.
The Indians got to 113 games. They were 1 game behind
the White Sox.
The White Sox for first place. They were in the wild card spot.
Yeah.
And they had, at that point in the season, Bull, 113 games in, they had 17 complete games by their pitchers. You won't find a staff that gets to double digits in complete games again.
What's funny is the Guardians, just say since 2020, this decade, right? They've had one of the best pitching staffs in baseball. I don't know if they've had 17 complete games this decade.
I doubt very seriously that they've had it in this
I don't even know if they've had 10.
Yeah, it's crazy. That's how much the game has changed. It's more specialized.
By the way, speaking of which, a real quick sidebar.
Sure.
My buddy and I, who's a huge baseball fan also, right before this morning, I was sitting here talking with him, and we were talking about how much pitching has changed and how Hall of Fame voters are going to have to look at pitchers differently. Yeah. Because you're never going to have a pitcher win 300 games. You're very rarely going to have a guy get 3,000 strikeouts. Guys just don't pitch enough innings.
The new bars are
and
lower.
You're going to have to look at it because we were talking about, is Chris Sale a Hall of Famer? Is Zach Greinke a Hall of Famer? We were talking about some of those guys, and you're going to have to look at pitchers differently to get into the Hall of Fame.
That's a great point, Bull, because your gut is to say no, but that's by the old standard.
We were even talking about Corey Kluber and Johan Santana, who for
Kluber's
like
only got like 100, and he's low on a win
right,
count,
but
though.
those guys for like 5-6 years were the best pitchers in baseball.
Do you think that how low will that bar go? Will it go to 200 wins?
Well, I don't even think to me, I don't even think the wins should matter.
You don't count wins.
I care more about the ERA, the WHIP, the dominance, the Cy Youngs.
How long they were dominant,
right?
too.
Because think about it. Sandy Koufax is like the one example from back in the day where he was great for 5-6 years. That was it.
That's it.
And then he got hurt. But so was Kluber, and so was Johan Santana.
Yeah,
and those guys will be interesting down the line.
Yeah, but the voters are going to have to change their bar because nobody's going to get, like you said, I don't know that I looked this up in the offseason.
Yeah.
The pitcher closest to 300
is
Verlander.
Right.
But he's still from the old school era.
Sure, and he's still not going to get there, right? I mean, how does he
it's
have?
downful he'll get there.
Yeah.
He's already having arm issues.
Like, how many does Kershaw have? You know, and
I think
Kershaw's
in the
a Hall
low
of Famer.
200s, but I don't think anybody's going to get to that old threshold. It's funny. Yeah. Remember, Cy Young won 511 games.
Right.
Remember,
holy cow.
We talked about
talk about the unbreakable record in sports.
We had it on the show. We talked about the unbreakable records, and 60-70% of them were pitching records.
Yeah, they're just not going to be broken.
Yeah, no.
I wrote some notes. I'll go through them quickly because we got a lot to get to today. Shane Bieber obviously lights out.
Yeah.
6 scoreless, 11 strikeouts, 1 walk, 4 hits. None of them were loud. None of them. They didn't even really record loud outs. He got a lot of ground ball outs.
And the one good hit, by the way, was the A's could have had something going, and Butler slid off the base, and it was a great play by Jose to stay with it.
Waiting for him to come off.
Yeah.
Patient, aggressive.
Yeah.
It's a veteran move by him to wait for the hand to come off the bag. I noticed, and we talked yesterday in the chat. I, like you, did not like him. He's so down in the lineup. He's not a 7 hitter.
No, not in this lineup.
and so I can't imagine that he's going to live there all year. I said in the chat, and I'll repeat it here.
Yeah.
I'm going to give Stephen Vogt a 2-month honeymoon.
That's fair.
I'm not going to nitpick all of the little things. I'll talk about them, but I'm not going to harp on them because he's new. He's figuring things out.
Sure.
He's clearly going to be a manager that does things differently. Tito, I think it's safe to say, was a by-the-book guy. He used analytics, but he was, for the most part, Jose Ramirez is a 3-hitter. You hit him in the 3 spot.
Well, and Miles Straw would still be on this roster.
Oh, no.
No question he would. Tito was in love with Miles Straw.
Yeah.
A couple of things I didn't like, I'm not going to harp on.
Yeah.
I just would have done it differently. And now it's only one game, small sample size, but the way it played out last night is exactly the way I felt it would play out. He's got Jose in the 2 spot. I don't like it. I know the idea is put him behind a guy that gets on base a lot.
Yeah.
He's going to see better pitches. If you looked at the game and the way it played out, Quan was 0 for his first 4.
Right.
He got on base in his 5th at-bat.
Yeah.
Jose, with a patient at-bat, got a pitch he could handle and almost hit one out. He got a triple that knocked in a run.
Yeah.
Prior to that, his at-bats looked middling. I know it's 5. It's a very small sampling size. Yeah. I just want him in a position because you look at this lineup and you say, where are the runs going to come from? If he does hit 30 home runs and he's hitting in the lead or in the number 2 spot, his RBI total will be down.
We'll see how it plays out.
Right.
Yesterday, my bold prediction, you guys are going to give them in a little bit, was that, and bold predictions are things you're not expecting to happen.
Sure.
It's a small percentage. But I said that Brian Rocchio would be an all-star. Okay? I like Brian Rocchio. I'm really excited to give him an opportunity. If he plays well and he's batting 9th, well, then after the first time.
Yeah, you're resetting the lineup with a 9
think
spot.
about, as the 2-hitter, how many more at-bats over the course of the season that might give Jose?
Yeah, they were – I can't remember exactly what it was. I think it was like 0.5 per game. And the reason I can remember that is because Aaron Judge, when he was going for 60 home runs, if you remember, Aaron Boone put him as the leadoff hitter.
That's true. Yeah.
And the whole idea was to get him more at-bats. And a lot of the statisticians were doing the math on that. How many more at-bats will he get if he's in the 1 as opposed to the 3, 4, or 5?
What I would do, though, Jay, is if you're going to hit Jose 2, I would hit Naylor 3, Josh Naylor.
It makes perfect sense.
If you're going to do that. Because Naylor is the second best hitter on the team, and so that's the best protection for Jose if you're going to put Jose in the 2 hole.
Yeah, I hope it doesn't play out that way.
You're right.
Yeah,
I complained about the lineup yesterday, but we do have to give it some time.
Also, like you, I was in agreement with you when you sent the text to the group about – boy, that murderer's row in the middle of the lineup, Fry and Freeman. I thought for sure that they were going to struggle to score runs.
Yeah.
just because the way the lineup was, Hosey in the 2,
Yeah.
Hemme way down in the bottom, and 4 and 5, or 5 and 6, I think. Or,
Yeah, 5 and 6. Yeah.
And I just thought, that's not going to work. 5 of the 11 hits came from Fry and Freeman.
They both had a great game. Freeman, I loved when Freeman knocked in the first run with that double, and then he's like fired up. I thought that brought a lot of energy early. That's what you need from young players.
I loved his aggressiveness on the base running.
Yes, that was great base running.
90% of the time, where that ball was hit, you stop it first. But because it was the start of the season and he wanted to get something going, he took the extra bag. It was a smart play.
It was predetermined. It was like one of them things where
off the bat.
In basketball, you're like, you know what? I'm shooting this 3 right quick.
Yeah. Or I'm taking the lane.
I'm driving to the hole.
I think that's a good point. He probably, in his mind, he said, I'm going.
If the Guardians are going to have success offensively, they've got to play like that.
They do.
They're not going to hit a ton of home runs. Hopefully it'll be up from last year, but we know they're not going to live and die by the home run. They've got to be aggressive on the base.
Yeah, now to that point, one of the things I jotted down was I did not love that Josh Naylor tried to steal a bag immediately after getting hit in the wrist.
That was I said in the text, I was like, it was almost like he was so pissed that he got hit. Maybe he was scared that he was going to be hurt, that he was hurt, that he's like, I don't know.
Oakland's catcher has a gun.
Yeah.
He was out by two steps.
I want to see Rocchio run and Naylor stay at first. He's the one guy.
That's a great idea.
He's the one guy I don't want running.
There were a couple of times, and we may have been chatting about it during the game in the text chain. There were a couple of times where I thought they would run.
Yes.
And I wanted to see them run just to get something going.
About that,
and they didn't. So that was a little odd.
Is this sustainable for Fry to give you 3 hits?
No.
I'm like, when I saw him at DH, I said, why?
Yeah, that was odd.
Yeah.
Why?
But
it worked.
It worked.
Yeah. It was one game. It's a small sample size. And again, it's against Oakland. They're pitching. It is like they're playing a minor league team. I'm not going to make too many decisions based off this series.
No.
It's just 2 games, right?
4.
Oh, it is 4.
Yeah.
They have 4.
Then 3 at Seattle.
3 and 3.
Yeah.
And then they come home. So a 10-game road trip. That's like they've started on the road 7 straight years.
It's kind of better for weather-wise.
No, I understand that. It's good. You want to get the Midwest and the Northeast teams into warm locales. Yeah. Oakland's not a warm locale, by the way.
No.
But what's interesting is I was talking to Bart and to Curtis at spring training about this. I wanted to know whose genius idea was it to have opening day on the day of the eclipse. And they said it was an accident.
Yeah.
They had Major League Baseball normally would have had them home before that, but the Guardians said we're going to need the extra time because we're renovating.
Right.
So we need every second, every minute of every day. So can you put us on the road for a little longer? And the way it worked out was we'll give you 3 series on the road to start, which is good. If they can come home 6-4 on a 10-game swing like that, bring a buzz.
I need a 7-3.
7-3 would be even better. Listen, but I'm saying that because the West Coast swing is always brutal.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
If you get those 10 road games out of the way early, what that means is you have 81 of the last 152 on the road.
Right, yeah.
At home.
Yeah.
So, that gives you and the back end of the schedule should be home loaded.
And you look at the offseason gave you nothing to be excited about, right? There was no buzz for the team.
Yeah.
Yeah, people like you and me that love baseball, we're going to be into it.
Yeah.
But for the casual fan, there was no buzz this offseason. So if they can get off to a good start, plus the eclipse and the women's Final Four and everything going on leading up to opening day,
it would be fun.
It's going to be exciting.
I think you hit the number on the head. I think 6-4, everybody would be pleased.
Yeah.
But 7-3, you get into 7-3 and even
buzz.
8-2.
Yeah.
And then everybody's like, what do we have?
Right.
And I think that will really jumpstart the season.
And I'm telling you what, and you said something before the show. It's not like the Cavs got you jumping out.
No, right now the Cavs stink,
and normally they would.
And so you get an opportunity because the people it's the in between money. It's the in between fans that get you over.
Right.
And by the way, it's 10 days out, but I just looked at the forecast for home opener.
Yeah,
62 and sunny as of today when I looked at it.
Okay, now
would that be amazing?
I'll give you a warning with that.
Yeah,
my good friend upstairs, Betsy Kling,
she says it doesn't matter.
Chief meteorologist of Channel 3. We've had long discussions about, look at that beautiful sky. That would be nice if we had a day like that. And look, I'm not going to piss on that forecast. Maybe it is going to be great. Right. I hope it is. But Betsy has told me that forecasting is a very tricky game. You can, with pretty good certainty, give you 24 hours. When you start to get to 72 hours, there's a lot of variables that could change. It's weather. By definition, it changes. But when you start getting to 5, 7, and 10,
it's a crapshoot.
What you're really looking at, there is some model play that comes in, but what you're mostly looking at are averages and history. You know, your average high, your average low.
I'll keep my fingers crossed.
Why don't you just plagiarize? I'm going off. Hey, what Al Roker say? It's going to be sunny in 60.
I mean,
there's a lot of agreement.
But I bring up this. This happened to be on Weather Channel because I use WKYC's forecast, but they don't go as many days ahead as Weather Channel does, which I get.
And that's why Betsy says
but even on WKYC, they give you a week.
Yeah. And I think on the
days.
weekends they give you 10 days.
Yeah, okay.
I think. Or maybe it's at 11 o'clock we give you 10 days. I'm not sure.
Things your parents do. Wake up and check the forecast.
Oh, absolutely.
At all times.
That should be I'm sure Progressive in their you're going to grow up and be your parents ads. I'm sure at some point they've done the weather
Did you see the one with LL Cool J?
It's one of my favorites. Don't freak out.
Listen,
but
Bull, I saw you doing that.
So good.
Bull, that is you. I see he tries to play it cool at first.
I've got a video of my nephew playing the piano.
Yeah, this is my kid's little league team. You want to see it?
It's so good. I love. They make us laugh because they're true.
Those commercials are the best. That guy who plays the doctor is phenomenal.
He's really good.
He is the best.
He's really good. Okay, one other note because I know we got to go. I thought, and this is maybe it is confirmation bias. When I was in Arizona, I heard a lot of talk that there's going to be a pivot in their offensive philosophy. They're going to be more aggressive. They're not going to be so afraid to swing and miss. I thought, and maybe again it was confirmation bias, but to me it felt like the Guardians were more aggressive early in the count, where in past years, and this was Tito's message, they were spitting on pitches that were too good to spit on.
Right.
I thought last night when there were down the middle fastballs to open a count, guys were going for it. And I hope to see that trend because that's leads to more offensive production in my view.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to strike out.
Yeah.
Okay, Earl, we probably went a little longer than planned, but my bad.
You're all good, man. So if you're trying to get down to Progressive Field to see the Cleveland Guardians this year, take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. All you have to do is download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. So make sure you download Game Time if you're trying to get down to the game. Jay, G, you all were not here yesterday. Bull, Jason, and Tyvis gave their big, bold predictions for the Cleveland Guardians this year. So we are curious to know what you got cooked up for your big, bold predictions.
You want to go first, G?
Yeah, man. Let me listen. I said this to Mike. Let me get.
What were they? So mine was Rocchio to the All-Star game.
Yeah.
What was
Jason and Tyvis?
I can't remember now. Tyvis said that the Guardians would finish in the top 15 in home runs. That's a bold prediction.
They're going to hit more homers. I think they're going to hit 150 home runs this year.
That wouldn't get them into the top 15.
No, it would not.
I think last year the 15th team was the Cubs, and they hit 170 something.
Yeah. And I don't think they're going to be in the top 15.
And see, I said to Jason, this was not bold enough.
Thank you. I was going to say that.
I mean, I think that's not a shock if that happens.
A couple of weeks ago, we had the discussion.
Yeah.
Which of the Guardians' 5 starting pitchers?
Right.
In other words, like handicap the Cy Young race just amongst the Guardian starters, and we were all like, I don't think it would be a shock if any of these guys won it.
This is where G. Bush really comes into effect. Operation Stockpile is here. This is Operation Knee Jerk because I'm going crazy on these right here. I said the Guardians' young arms stay healthy and become the top rotation in the American League.
I don't think that's a stretch either.
I don't think that's not a bold prediction, Jay.
Hold on.
Now, you said all of baseball?
All of baseball.
Now, there was, I think MLB.com put their rotation rankings out
I didn't
there,
see them.
And I think the Guardians were 9th.
Wow.
And we looked at it yesterday. Jason and I thought we would move them up a spot or two to maybe 7.
So I said that. So that is
I'm
bold.
way high on them.
But that is bold.
Yeah.
Now, I got more seasoning.
Yeah.
I used more seasoning. The Naylor brothers combined for 40 home runs plus. Okay. I got more seasoning.
Yeah, I can see that.
Jose Ramirez, 30 home runs.
All right.
I can see all of that.
This the big one. Guardians win 94 games.
Okay, that's bold. A stretch.
There it is.
That's bold.
See how you make them wait for it? That is how you do it.
That is bold.
That's bold.
Yeah.
94.
Now I feel bad because I don't know how often this happens. Bull, you can help me on this.
Yeah.
I don't think it happens very often.
Yeah.
But again, talking about this staff, it kind of reminds me how much I love it. my bold prediction was very simple, that they would have 3 starters win 15 games. 15 is kind of the new 20.
Yeah.
And
that is hard because guys just don't go deep into games.
Right, they don't. Now, there have been times where I know the Orioles had 4 20-game winners once in the 70s.
Yeah.
And I think it might have been done a time or two. I don't know that the Braves' great staff of the
That's
90s actually
rare.
ever had 4 20-game winners.
I think
the Indians in the 40s or 50s
I'm trying to think
had
if
4
that,
20-game
if that
winners.
86 Mets team that had
Fernandez, Gooden, Ojeda, they may have
Sid
had,
Fernandez.
Yeah, they were really good.
I don't know if I don't think they all won 20 games, but
they were good.
That is bold. I think it's a long. I mean, I could see Bieber and Bybee. I think
McKenzie. I think McKenzie's going to bounce back.
I just worry that he's not going to pitch. No, I think he'll be good, but he's not a guy who I expect to go deep into games enough to get those wins.
Yeah, possible.
It's hard.
So that does qualify, because if you say it's a bold prediction, okay.
Yeah, I think
the other one that hit me while I was watching the game last night when I was said after 1 inning, oh wow, he has no hit stuff. My other bold prediction is Shane Bieber is going to pitch a no-hitter this year. The drought will end.
That's definitely bold.
Yeah, it is bold because you're predicting,
something that hasn't happened in over 40 years.
Hasn't happened for a long time for this.
I just don't want to get no hit again. I've seen the Guardians get no hit way too many
the Guardians
times.
have been no hit.
A couple of years ago were no hit 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, it was awful.
It was one of my. Like one of the low points of this franchise.
Yeah,
and they weren't a bad team.
No, it was weird.
But they got no hit. I think 3 or 4 times.
It was crazy that year.
Might be a record.
Yeah.
How much they were no hit.
I got a question.
Okay.
If I was to say Gabriel Arias and Bo Naylor combines for 40 home runs this year, is that like a bold prediction?
Yeah.
That would be
very bold.
That would be Bo Naylor got 35 of them home runs.
Yeah. Arias not in the starting lineup. He's going to get at bats, but
it was a lefty pitcher though, so he'll play against righties somewhat.
He will play.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I think Bo's going to have to hit 30.
Listen, if you told me Arias hit 10 home runs, I'd be thrilled at this point.
It would be a huge bonus.
I think to expect a second-year catcher who hasn't played much in the big leagues to hit 30 home runs is not realistic.
By the way, I need to see him the rest of these 3 games. I don't stop.
Well, he's only catching 2 of them. I hope he'll DH the other one.
No, I don't like that. I don't like that early on.
And again, I get what Hedges brings defensively. The guy just can't hit.
It's funny. He came up with some really big spots last night.
And he did.
I mean,
he had one hit. We already debated that one. That was an error.
Yeah.
So and here's the thing. I get it. It seems like they're like, we brought him in as a free agent. Yeah. We got to at least play him 72 games.
I don't mind if they use I just want Naylor to play.
How many games should Hedges catch? Because I've got a number in mind.
If it were me, I'd have him catch 30 games.
That's my number.
Give or take.
I want Bo Naylor to play 130 games.
Right.
I want.
And if it's going to be a little more, Jay, then let Naylor DH a dozen games also. You know what I'm saying?
So
if you want to let him catch 120, fine. Have him DH 12 games because he should be one of their third or fourth best hitter.
Is he Bieber? I thought maybe he was Bieber's.
No,
that's what everybody's saying when I complained about it.
And Vogt was a catcher in his career.
Yeah,
he handled pitchers. I'm sure if there was a Bieber type pitcher on the staff that went to Vogt and said, "Look, I only feel comfortable with X," then the manager would be prone to maybe not every start, but he's going to
But that's really rare.
But it is rare.
John Lester had that with David Ross.
Yeah, I think it was more common 20 years ago.
Yeah. I thought back in the day they used to do it all the time.
It was more
common back in the day. But I think today, if you're a major league catcher, you can handle a pitcher.
And again,
the problem is, unless just a knuckleballer.
Yes,
a lot of times there's guys hate catching knuckleballers.
Doug Mirabelli used to be a guy who would catch Wakefield.
Absolutely.
But
the Candyman.
The problem is, again, I know Hedges is a great guy. I don't mean to be mean to him personally. He knows it. He said it. He just can't hit.
Yeah.
His career batting average is like 170.
It's not that low, is it?
I think it is.
No, it's not that low. It's got to be in the 2s. Please check that.
Nah.
I could have sworn that Hammy said that last night.
We need elevator music.
I'm going to look at it right now. But
man, I hope it's higher than 170. I would have remembered if it was that low. I think it's in the
189.
2s. God dang. 189.
All right, it wasn't 170, but it's. I mean, the guy's got a career batting average under 200.
Yeah, no,
he's got to be the only player in baseball like that with enough at bat. He's got 2,000 1,000 career at-bats.
Yeah, well, you know what? It speaks to his value, that he's been around that
There's
long.
no doubt. As a backup catcher, he is great. But,
Yeah.
I mean, he's a zero at the plate, unfortunately. But they didn't need him yesterday. They got 8 runs.
didn't, thankfully. There are going to be games where he's in there, where he's going to come up in positions where they're going to need that stick.
Yeah.
And maybe then you pinch hit.
Right.
If he came up last night, as he did late in the game with
When
the
it
bases
mattered,
loaded in a 1-0 game, then Bo Naylor goes in.
100%.
And that's the right move to
100%.
make.
Did you guys talk about this? What's the magic number for this division?
I think it's going to take at least 90. But low 90s.
I don't agree.
Wow.
I just can't see someone winning a division with fewer than 90.
88 maybe. 89.
I don't agree. I think Minnesota
What won it last year? Minnesota won 90 last year.
But I don't think they're as good, and I don't think anybody's better than they were last year.
I'm not sure they're as good either. That's a good point.
I think Minnesota went backwards. I think the Guardians are the same, I'll say. I think Detroit
I'm going to say the Guardians are better strictly because they're paid. They only won 76 last year.
Ooh. No,
But their pitching
the
was
roster,
decimated.
they were injured,
Yeah.
right? The roster didn't really change.
The roster is.
It's just got to be
essentially the same.
healthier
Hey,
this
did
year.
Oscar Gonzalez make the Yankees opening day?
No.
So where is he?
He's in AAA with them.
So he took the assignment.
Might have gotten hurt right at the end of spring training, too.
Yeah.
2023 American League Central Division standings. Minnesota won a division, winning 87 games.
Wow.
Yeah, so
My
I think it's going to be like between 85 and 87.
That was really down year.
But here, I'll tell you this. Here's a bold prediction for you. I say that the Twins, the Guardians, the Tigers, and the Royals will all finish within 8 games of each other.
So you're saying it'd basically be a 500 division?
I think it's going to be all close. I think they'll all finish between 85 and 78.
You know what's funny?
White Sox terrible.
A couple of years ago, the Braves. Last year, look at the Rangers and the Diamondbacks.
Right. They were the 5 and the 6 seed.
Yeah. They didn't, burn the world down.
Diamondbacks clinched on the last day of the season.
I know they did. Yeah. And then make a long run. The Rangers, same thing. 2 years ago when the Braves won it, they were under 500 on August 10th.
So were the Nats a few years ago.
A couple
when
years
they
back.
won. Yeah.
So I like the plan for this team. We ran part of my interview with Stephen Vogt yesterday on the 5 o'clock show that I did when I was out in Goodyear about, and it was a very pointed question. 2024 will be a successful season if, and I asked that question to all the guys. He was the one that answered it most directly and the only one that used either the words playoffs or World Series. And he started his answer with, if we win the World Series.
Yeah.
And I like that.
Absolutely.
And you know what? I mean, I know that no one, I don't think, is going to pick them, but if you want to throw a flyer on a long shot at the start of the season, they're probably one of the smartest teams to do it with because, as you know, you still need offense, but great pitching can win a World Series.
Absolutely. Listen, the great thing about baseball is if you make the playoffs, you can win the World Series. You never go to the baseball playoffs and say, oh, this team can't win. I mean, that doesn't happen. Like we said, the Rangers were the 5 seed last year, and the Diamondbacks were the 6. So they barely made the playoffs, those two teams.
It feels kind of crazy.
Diamondbacks won like 84 games last year.
It's less fulfilling almost. I think if you win, okay, if you win, like you're going to take it. But if you compare it to like basketball or football, like you pretty much know who's going to win. Like the best teams
Football,
win.
most of the teams that get in have at least a chance as long as you have a quarterback. Basketball, like I said, Jason disagreed with me. He'd give him at least a little bit of a chance. But I said, there's no way the Cavs can win a championship. There's no chance.
They would have to start playing again like they did for that 20-game stretch after the first year.
They would have to have guys that just woke up and played out of their mind.
I don't know.
In baseball,
there are teams that I would tell you in the NBA, no chance. And I'm talking about playoff teams, not the guys that aren't going to go. There's just teams that will be in the playoffs that have zero chance. I think the Cavs have a small single-digit chance, but they're a long shot.
If you poll people in the street and say who won the World Series last year, there'll be a lot of people that
don't know.
Most people wouldn't.
And think about it. The 2 teams in the American League that most people are picking to go to the World Series this year, the Astros and the Orioles, like those teams, the Orioles got Corbin Burns from the Brewers. It was a great trade. He was great on opening day.
They have to recreate some magic that's not easy to recreate.
Yeah,
by the way.
and listen, their lineup's fantastic. They got amazing young players. But their rotation outside of Burns is nothing special.
I thought because of their rotation last year, they overachieved by a ton.
Now, Burns makes a difference because he's one of the best pitchers in baseball.
it changes their rotation.
But the rest of their rotation in the playoffs, like the Mariners, deep rotation. If the Rangers can get DeGrom and Scherzer healthy, deep rotation.
Yeah,
but the
they're set.
Guardians have a rotation to play with anybody if they're healthy. And if they make the playoffs, I'm going to assume it's going to be healthy to get there.
It would be great. And if they do, it's funny. They could be the 2 seed or the 3 seed.
Yeah.
But it's in baseball.
It doesn't
win one road game and you erase 15 wins. From somebody in the regular season.
Yeah.
So it's a big eraser when you get in the playoffs if you can just win one road game. Before we move on from this, we did the same thing upstairs. We do it every year. We do it's a bold predictions. Our digital staff puts together like 6 or 7 questions, and then they send it out to the newsroom. Usually 15 people or so reply. And I was reading through some of the replies yesterday, and one of the bold predictions was that Shane Bieber re-signs a long-term deal to stay here in Cleveland. And a year ago, I would have told you that's completely off the table.
Yeah.
And I still think he's going to move.
Yeah.
And I think that the Guardians' most difficult decision they'll have to make this year is what to do with him at the trade deadline.
Well, if they're in it.
If you're within 3 games, you cannot trade Shane Bieber. You can't. Now, you run the risk then of getting nothing for him.
Right. Because I don't buy they're going to sign him.
Well,
I just
the
think
reason
it's
I think that is doable, I still think he won't, but the reason I feel more inclined to at least give that some time is that we know that the Guardians now have a minority partner, and he is willing, if you look at his track record with his other pro sports franchises, he spends money.
But they spent nothing this offseason.
Which is more, and follow this logic. Perhaps they spent nothing because they're all in on Bieber or bust. And here's what I mean by that. Last year they went to the free agent well, and not only was it dry, it turned up puke. It was awful. I mean, Belle, when he was here, was a pig. He got much better when he went to Miami.
Yeah.
But Zunino's out of baseball.
Right.
So they spent a lot of money poorly. So in talking to Antonetti, when I brought that up with him, one of the things he said was, we tried that last year. This year we want to look at the kids. Let's just say they're in a really good spot in July. I think they're more likely to do a deal with Bieber because they didn't spend any money this year.
I hope you're right.
Maybe I'm being overly optimistic.
But if he has a great year, he can be able to get a $200 million contract.
And he knows that.
At least 150, 170 minimum. And I'd be shocked if they do it. But, I mean, that would be cool. It would be a franchise changer if they did something like that. But I don't know. Yeah, going with the kids, last thing, I mean, just like, you see Nolan Jones and some of these guys. But it's old news. We're on to this year.
It is. All right. That's our bold prediction segment. What do you have, Earl?
And my bold prediction is once the Cleveland Guardians make the playoffs, you can watch Guardians post-game shows with my man Adam the Bull and Zach Meisel. Don't forget to catch the Ultimate Cleveland Cavaliers show with Mike McNuggets, Jason Lloyd, and then my man G. Bush with the Ultimate Brown show. I think he has an episode coming today.
And you're doing a show.
I did my show yesterday, and I had a part 2 conversation with a former NFL wide receiver. Here's a little snippet of that so you all can go back and watch that.
All right, check it out.
I was at peace. For the first time that last 2 years of my life, I was at peace. I'm like, I'm battling if I still wanted to play. But I was at peace in that moment. I'm like, I get to relax a little bit. Not knowing severity, right? I'm just thinking the rest of the season. I'm just thinking that moment, not even the rest of the season, that moment, right? So I do all these x-rays and all these MRIs and everything. I still got my uniform on, like my undershirt from the game. And I kind of find out about 3 years ago that I was 2 or 3 centimeters away from getting my leg amputated. From having my leg taken away from me, like from my knee down, basically taken away from me.
Wow.
Yeah, so make sure you go check that out, man. And I broke every rule. We usually do these podcasts for like 30 minutes. We went to 4 hour, a very spirited conversation about, the career-ending injury that almost altered his life, what he's doing now, and what he hopes to be doing in the future. So check out all the Ultimate shows on the UCSS YouTube channel.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a network now. It's not just one show.
Yeah.
It started with the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Now it's a full-blown network.
That's right.
It's unbelievable. Kudos to everybody and all the hard work that you guys have poured in, because it is definitely paying big dividends. By the way, I love Cecil Shorts. I just think he's just great dude. He's a great interview. Is media part of his future plans?
That's what he wants to do.
I'm telling you, the guy would kill it as a full-time media analyst with one of the networks, and I just can't figure out why it hasn't happened yet.
I told him, I said, we keep this train rolling. He's going to come home to Cleveland, and he can join our team.
That's exactly right.
He said he'd love to do so.
I'm sure he would. Go check that out, the interviews. And quickly, on the Ultimate Guardians show, how's it going? You guys have done a couple,
We did
right?
one episode
One.
last week. Half hour is really not enough time.
It's
It goes by so quick. It's 'cause Zach
But
and I,
what a team.
Yeah, Zach and I love talking about the Guardians. We love talking baseball, and so it was great. And we got a lot of great questions from the fans. And because it's baseball and there's games all the time, the time of our show may change from week to week.
Right.
We're trying to do it
Is
live.
it a weekly? Oh,
Yeah, we're doing it once a week,
Okay.
Mondays at 3. But like on opening day, we may do it on Tuesday so
Sure.
we can recap opening day.
Yeah.
And plus the Guardians, and I can't remember, some point in April, play that 11 a.m. Boston game.
yes, that's right.
So we're going to do it later that day or
Patriots
something.
Day or
so-
whatever, the marathon.
Yeah,
is
right,
that
right,
day.
right.
Yeah,
So-
that's very cool.
Yeah.
I've said this. It sounds gratuitous because I work with these guys and they're my friends, but I've had this conversation with other sports fans in Cleveland. I just want to share this quickly. I think our teams, if you want, obviously if you want the full boat, then Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show is, I think it's the place, and it's proven by the metrics that it's Cleveland's go-to show.
That's right.
When they want to talk, when they want to listen to Cleveland Sports Talk. But in a very short period of time, what we've done is also staked our claim as the go-to Guardian show. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You're not going to get, and in this town, you will not find anything that approaches what you and Zach are going to do.
Thank you.
Not even close. Same with the Cavs. Jason Lloyd is, with his experience and veteran writing behind him and what he's covered, and McNuggets, I say,
Knows the game so
almost
well.
savant-like
Yeah.
knowledge of the game. He played it at a high level.
Yeah.
His understanding of the game is off the charts. If you want to listen to the regular Cavs beat, that's your go-to place. And then G. Bush on the Browns show, I'm sorry, it's just a game set match.
That's right.
And then we got the audacity to give people sports, life, and culture too.
With
We have the most
Earl of Pearl.
diverse, like stable ever. We are the
crazy.
one-stop shop for everything.
It's
man.
nuts. And it's all happened in under 2 years. Our
right.
2-year anniversary is less than a
May
month.
9th.
May 9th.
Yeah.
So it's a little more than a month away.
5-6 weeks.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Kudos to you guys for the hard work and everybody. And poor little Steve back there is the director. And without Steve, this thing doesn't even get off the ground.
That's a fact.
Doesn't even get off the ground. We fell into this veteran director with, I think, 144 years experience over at Channel 5? How long were you there?
275.
I think he was there right after the Civil War ended. I think he started at Channel 5.
Yep.
No.
And then he retires, and we're starting this venture, and it's like synergy.
Steve is Jesus' godfather.
Perfect time.
He lived down the street from Abraham.
He did. He's somebody's godfather. I know that.
He was on Noah's Ark. Yeah.
All right, let's
That's
pivot
crazy.
and show our diversity, shall we?
Yeah.
More than Guardians, we give you Cleveland Browns talk. Amari Cooper, we all talked, I think midway through the season, someone brought up, when are they going to get this extension done? Because he's clearly the WR1. Clearly, it's not debatable, at least yet. I mean, maybe next year he might be threatening that. Do we want an extension before the season? There's some value in waiting because it might motivate him to have another huge season, but you also run the risk of the price going up if he does. If you're Andrew Berry, are you doing an extension now? Or are you waiting until after the season?
I would do it now because I wanted to wait on Judy because I'm worried about that. With Amari Cooper, I'm not worried about him being comfortable because he got
Are you
paid.
worried about age yet?
I am a little worried about age, which is why I want a short extension. I would only want to extend him for 1 year. Now, he may not be game for that, but I would only want to extend him for 1 year because, or let me rephrase that. I would extend beyond that, but nothing guaranteed beyond next year.
Okay.
It would all be money I can get out of because he's at the age where he could go off the cliff any year. It could happen.
Right.
It happens.
Well,
to
next
every
year's
wide
already
receiver.
guaranteed. You mean an additional year for 25?
Right. Yes. Right.
Okay.
Yeah, when I say next year, I'm in my mind,
Yeah,
we're in the 24
I know what you're saying.
Yeah, so I would guarantee him money for 25, and then you extend him another year beyond that, but you can get out of that money for 26. Because I expect him to play at a really high level for at least another year. And if the second year he declines and he's now a number 2 receiver, okay, I could live with overpaying him for 1 year. So that's what I would do. I wouldn't wait because the guy has put up 2 of the best seasons, arguably the best back-to-back seasons in the history of the franchise.
I think it's pretty definitive. If you take Ozzie Newsome out of the mix, who was the tight end?
Right, and so I'd show him some love, especially when you just pay Jerry Jeudy, who's never proven anything in the league.
I think that's a great point.
Listen, I called the Cleveland Browns, Andrew Berry, the new Fed. So I hit Alan Greenspan up and said, all of this is imaginary. So what we're going to do is we're going to do what's best for the cap. And if they tell me that the cap is probably going up next year, and they telling me we got the money next year, then I don't care when they pay them, to be truthful. I look at it in a number of ways. The first way is the Cleveland Browns, if they've wanted you as a player, they've always gone out and gotten that said player, whether it's via trade or when it came to money. The Cleveland Browns have never said.
Well, this current
regime.
Yes, I agree.
This current regime, they go out and get it done. We've talked about Amari Cooper potentially not having taking money away from him or having him be a cut. Didn't happen. We still ain't seen Nick Chubb give no money back.
No. They're obviously not. If they were going to cut Nick Chubb, which we all thought they wouldn't, it would have happened.
If they was going to ask for some money back, it would have happened by now. They went and gave, and I learned a tough lesson, or a lot of people others learned a tougher lesson than me, is these guys are finance guys, right? Like they literally are Ivy League calculator number crunchers. That's just what it is. Like, so for you and I to be sitting here talking about, you know how you go back and you ever got a car and you want to go get a car, and the salesman come back, he said, let me go back here in the back real quick.
Oh yeah.
And they go back in the back and get on
I gotta
that
talk
phone.
to my manager.
I gotta talk to a couple guys.
Okay.
And they come back. You know your credit score like a 400-degree oven. You know your credit score is 475. They come back and they got a deal for you. Then they got some finance company somewhere to say yes on 27.5% loan on a 2013.
You'll be paying for this for 18 years.
But they got you together. Now, if they could do that, can you imagine what you could get for Amari Cooper? But he's a 2013 that they're going to have to amateurize and give him more money than he's supposed to, but they'll keep him around.
I have a question for you. Because whenever we ask these questions, should they sign? Now, granted, you have the Operation Stockpile T-shirt.
Yes.
And you're carrying the banner.
Yes.
But every time we ask the question, I'm going to do my G-Bush.
There it is.
Oh, absolutely, you sign him. You're giving him whatever he wants.
Whatever. Minimowski.
And here's the thing. Minimowski.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. On this particular case, by the way, I'm with you.
Yeah.
And I keep saying this, and I've been wrong. For 2 years, I've said, guys, there's going to come a day of reckoning.
Right.
And you guys keep saying the cap is an imaginary, it's a dwarf.
You say imaginary. I say it's very flexible.
No,
I don't think
and
it's
I think I've amended my belief on that because I used to think that it was the Holy Grail. That's what you made all of your decisions based on.
Yeah.
But as the league continues, I saw yesterday, I sent you guys the text. Did you see this? The league is going to auction off where they're going to put their Christmas Day game.
I know.
Network-wise. Starting bid $50 million.
Yeah, Christmas Day is no longer basketball. That's it.
No, the
It's
NFL
over.
last year said we're going to come into your turf and see how it goes. It went so well that in 1 year they flipped. You know, they say the NFL owns a day of the week.
Yeah.
Well, if the NBA owned a day of the year, it was Christmas Day.
Right.
Not anymore.
Over.
The NFL came and said, we like that. We're going to take that from you. And they did. And what they saw was people will watch football on Christmas Day like we do on Thanksgiving.
That's right. And it's a Wednesday this year.
It's a Wednesday. It's the middle of the week. But you know what?
Doesn't matter.
The networks will line up and the bids will start at
God.
$50 million and may go double that.
It's going to be crazy. And the ratings will be through the roof.
So that means that your cap, which we think is here today, continues to go up based on revenue. And as this revenue pile gets bigger and bigger, the cap number gets bigger and bigger. So you guys, I give.
Yeah.
You're right. I was wrong for 2 years. Hell with it. Sign everything.
Yeah!
Sign them
Let's
all.
go.
Operation Stockpile.
Now look.
Hey, Jay, the NFL went Debo. They said, this is my day, punk.
In my house.
Now listen.
The Browns are a bull. Not the Browns. The NFL is the bully.
They are the bully.
It takes whatever it wants.
But if we want it, we're going to take it
Now,
from you.
if I could only get people on the national debt thing, like if you
I wish that was
See, the national debt isn't like regular households. We need to tighten our belt straps. No.
No.
The government just says Hey, secretary, how much money is it for the defense fund? $800 million? Print.
The government approves budgets like the NFL looks at the salary cap.
There it is.
We see you. We know you're over there.
Yeah.
You're no threat to us, and we're going to keep spending.
That's right.
So because that's the new way, I say extend him immediately.
Yeah.
Give him whatever he wants. I'm not with G.
Yeah.
Whatever they want, give it to them. The cap number will continue to go up, and we'll be okay.
The only reason not to extend some guys is because you want them to have a prove-it year. But Amari Cooper's not one of those guys.
He's done
or
it.
You're an NFL team, and you have an owner that's the equivalent to the Donovans in baseball. Because to do that, you have to keep printing and giving people more money.
Sure.
As much as I find Jimmy distasteful, the Browns right now have a big advantage. He is willing to spend.
He is willing to spend.
And other teams are not willing to spend like he is, and that's a big advantage for the Browns.
You're absolutely right. All right, it's noon. We saved this topic for noon because I think our audience is at its biggest as lunch hour starts. This next one, you got to do a read before we go there. But this next one with Mayor Bibb is like an onion. There are so many layers to this thing. And yesterday, yet another piece of evidence as to where this Brown Stadium thing is going, unplayed, not with what the mayor said during his State of the City address, but what he didn't say. I mean, there was an elephant in the room that was covered in pink paint and splashing all over, and he just carried on like he wasn't seeing it and didn't get any pink paint on.
I'm going to do the read. I got 1 point.
Stunning.
I'm going to do this read, but he definitely stood on business. Listen, Mike built this rundown. I'm flying this ship. This next segment, if this takes us all the way up to 12:30 and we get to Channel 3, cool.
It's only in for 10 minutes, but I don't think 10 minutes will do it. I got a point on the
contract first before I do the read.
Okay.
This is why I think Amari Cooper should be awarded an extension right now.
Right.
You've already invested long-term in Jerry Jeudy. You made that investment with him ideally becoming your number one wide receiver. And I think one of the reasons you were okay doing so is because Amari Cooper is here to help him develop to be a pro.
That's a good point.
So it doesn't make sense to make the investment in Jerry Jeudy and then not make the investment in Amari Cooper, who's been proven to be a quality product on the football field.
I love that point. You're absolutely right. You don't want him to be a mentor for Jerry Jeudy, who's already looked up to him as an icon and a hero
and then be
for 1 year and then be gone. The other thing, too, that I wonder, we're all there's a professional jealousy that exists in the NFL, and we're all crazy if we don't acknowledge that. There had to be a piece of Amari watching the Browns extend a guy who's been a subpar performer based on what they thought he was going to be, the Broncos. Give him a pile of money. He's got to be over there going, whoa. What about me and what I've already done?
Yeah.
I like the fact that Andrew Berry seems to be a guy that's he plays 3 or 4 dimensional chess. He seems to be a guy that's ahead of the learning curve.
Yeah.
That's just a conversation.
Jerry Jeudy, he didn't really get paid like a number one receiver. He got paid like a high end too.
He got overpaid for what he's done.
Right. He's been a mid-tier 2 at best to a lower tier 2.
We all agree that the addition of Amari Cooper, and for what we had to give up to get him, we stole him from the Cowboys.
Absolute
a complete steal. He has been over and above what I thought he was going to be, and I had high expectations for him.
Yeah, well, Amari Cooper had been up and down, and we got lucky because he had his worst year the year before he got traded. That was his worst season.
I like the fact that, and I think Amari Cooper is one of the guys that understands that he already received this $100 million deal.
Right.
He may be looking at something more in the future where, hey, I'm trying to win now. He probably, if I'm Andrew Brady, I didn't have already brought him back in. I didn't already brought him in and say, hey, what do you think about Judy? Earl, what do you got?
I think it's coming. Yeah. Okay, Earl.
All right, say goodbye to busted brackets because FanDuel lets you bet on every game of the tourney. Whether you're betting on a big upset or a 1 seed, it's time to go dancing on America's #1 sports book. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 to use on point spreads, money lines. You can even pick who's going to win it all. Just visit FanDuel.com/UCSS and bet on college hoops until they cut the nets down. Now, Jay, I'm going to let you go ahead and set this up. I got some strong opinions about this whole stadium thing.
Good.
The one thing that I see off top, Mayor Bibb is unique. You're dealing with somebody, me and him is the same age. He's 36 years old. Traditionally, mayors are not 36 years old. And his approach to this particular issue is something that I've never seen before.
It is a high-stakes game of chicken, and both parties have a ton to gain and also a ton to lose. So you have, and I think what surprised me is how out in public now the Haslams are on the we want this dome in Brook Park.
That's what they want.
That is what they want, and they are not sugarcoating it. They're, after a long stretch of not talking to the media, they had to recently, they confirmed all of that. Yes, 176 acres purchased in Brook Park, friendly for what we want to do. They don't want just a stadium. They want all of the accoutrements around it that really make owners today super wealthy.
That's what these teams are doing.
That's what they're doing. That is the model now.
Again, let me just throw this out. We all know, I think we'd all agree, the owners should pay for these things all by themselves.
I agree they should.
The reality is, in most cases, they don't.
They do not.
It's a frustrating whatever, but that he wants to. Here's what I want to know from you, Jay, because I feel like you're the best qualified to answer this question. Because when we were talking about this on whatever it was, maybe Tuesday, when I was thinking about, because yes, the idea of a dome stadium. That's the Browns got to have a dome stadium.
Absolutely.
And the idea of putting it in Brook Park, my concern was, how does this negatively affect the city? Now, I know business owners from that perspective, but beyond the business owners, is there another negative impact for the city of Cleveland?
Sure.
The team just being in Brook Park?
Lost revenue, absolutely.
In terms of parking and just all these things.
Don't sleep on the parking piece of this. So if there are 60,000 fans, and on average there's 2.4 fans that use personal transportation, not public, to get to the game, then you're talking about 20,000 parking spots, and you know what the cost of those parking spots are on game day? They're not cheap.
When I used to do the pregame show, I parked uptown or downtown.
What'd you pay?
$80.
Okay.
Right.
So
Cash
here's what's
money.
at stake. Just say 10 times a year, because that number's going to flex.
Right, sure.
And if you get a playoff game, it's even more. Just let's base it on 10 games a year.
Right.
At 20,000 parking spots.
Yeah.
At just say an average of $75 per spot.
Right.
You're talking money in the tens of millions of dollars that the city of Cleveland would lose.
Is that offset at all by the money they won't be spending on the stadium?
No, not even close.
Okay.
Also, you mentioned the city stands to gain on tax revenue.
Right.
So for all of these adjacent businesses that probably do, I'm going to guess. I don't have any numbers to back this up. I'm going to admit it's irresponsible to do this. I'm just going to take a stab in the dark.
Yeah.
I would be willing to bet that if you talk to the businesses in downtown Cleveland, within a mile of the stadium, that they would tell you on those 10 days, which in total it makes up about 5%, not even 5% of the entire year,
it's crazy.
3% of the entire year.
It's crazy.
They probably do 15 to 20% of their revenue business. Because look what it means.
At the tailgate, I was down there. I did this Cleveland Browns tailgate show live downtown from West 6 for 6 years.
Right.
Every single bar, rain, sleet, or snow,
packed.
Yeah.
Always,
out the back.
to the gills.
Out to the,
and not just for an hour.
Just
all day.
The whole day.
Yes.
All day.
8 in the morning till midnight or 10 p.m.
By the way, all of that sales tax money is gone.
That's true.
That's gone. Those are the 10 busiest days in our downtown metro area, and they would disappear. That is, I don't want to say it's a crippling blow, but to a city who is already one of the most impoverished cities in the nation, you can't afford to lose your biggest cash cow, and that's what the Browns are. So it's a really interesting dynamic politically, because Mayor Bibb has big political aspirations. If you spend any time around him at all, you know that. He's not, I'm going to be a 4-term mayor in the city of Cleveland. No. He would like to do 1 or 2 stints as a mayor. And I think, I've asked him this directly, and he smiled and said, I have a big job to do in Cleveland, and that's what I'm thinking about. That tells me he's a seasoned politician already.
Jay?
But I think in his blueprint that's buried away in his closet somewhere, he's got a term or 2 as Cleveland mayor. Then maybe a run at the House of Representatives, then maybe as a senator. And don't scoff at this. Why not presidential ambitions? He's young, he's articulate, he's intelligent. Let's not hide the biggest fact in the world is the fact that he's a black man. He is a young Barack Obama to me. Now, I say that to say this. He's got all kinds of style, and there's a lot of glitz around him. His stint as Cleveland mayor will determine what substance he has. He has in front of him the biggest negotiation he will likely ever participate in.
And you know what?
You have got to make sure you land the cash cow.
It's such a, for the fans, I think people are got to be really torn about this because.
Are they?
Well, what do you think the fans all
I saw a
want
poll yesterday, and
Yeah.
I don't usually put a lot of stock in them. 70% of the fans in the poll I saw said they want the Dome Stadium in Brook Park.
Sure. Yes.
It's not like we're losing them to St. Louis.
No, I know that. I'm just saying there's I think for some people there's, if you don't live in Cleveland proper, yes, maybe you don't care.
No dog in the fight.
In
fact, I think people in the suburbs would say there will be more space to move around. The parking will be more accessible.
Right.
It would be a lot easier of an in and out, back and forth from the east side or west side
I feel
suburbs.
sad about the fact.
I do too,
I feel
Bull.
sad about it.
I do too.
I'm torn because I love the idea of the Browns having this Browns world. I think it's cool, but I'm also sad because I think it's bad for the city.
My sentiments exactly.
This is going to come down to politics. This is going to come. This is where the rubber meets the road. Let's be clear. Mayor Bibb is a mayor in a city where the city districts are blue. He lives in Cleveland.
Unquestionably.
They're blue. But he also understands that the majority of Ohioans are a red state.
It is.
And when you have future aspirations in terms of moving up the ladder, just having voters in the city limits of Cincinnati or Columbus or Cleveland ain't gonna get it done.
No, not if he wants a statewide office.
You have to get some people that are swing voters. You have to go into these red counties and have a game plan and have a track record. So they're gonna look at you and say, well, listen, we're traditionally conservative in this state. Now, you gave how much to a billionaire elitist?
Yeah, it won't be a good look.
How much did you give to the billionaire owner when you could have used that on something else? That's not going to play well with conservatives.
I don't know. Well. I think I would disagree with that.
No, I think the liberals would have a problem with that.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. He's splitting hairs. He's splitting hairs. He has to play both sides against the middle.
The reason I say I think this is the most important negotiation he'll ever be a part of is what's at stake. Make no mistake about this. Jimmy Haslam holds the hammer. In fact, he probably holds two hammers.
Right.
And I think the city, the position they're in, is they're looking up at those hammers saying, please don't crush me. They don't have a hammer in this. Here's what, and I don't, this isn't reporting, this is opinion. I want to be very clear that I make that distinction. But from talking to some people on both sides, the city and the team, it's my opinion, just opinion, that Jimmy has come to the decision that he is in a win-win situation. Here are the two scenarios that could play out. One, he gets a brand new, they're not renovating that dome. They're not renovating that dome.
The stadium.
The current stadium, I'm sorry, to make it a dome.
No.
That would be, you might as well take $1 billion and just throw it out the window as you're driving
ridiculous.
down I-90.
Yeah.
That is not going to happen. That thing is going to be leveled.
Yeah.
And most likely, if the Browns stay downtown, in its place will be a new $2 billion dome stadium, largely paid for by the city.
At least half.
At least half.
Yeah.
And when I say city, I mean public funds.
Yeah.
City, county, state.
Right.
It would likely be under that umbrella. Now, the other option, I believe, is for Jimmy to build, and I love your name for it because that's what I've been calling it, Browns World.
Yeah.
And Brook Park would become Browns World, just like Orlando has become Disney World. And here's what that would look like. 170 acres of a stadium, parking,
hotels,
Top Golfs. I've spent a lot of time in Glendale, Arizona, and my parents lived just up the road from that when they took what was a plot of farmland and decided we're going to stake our Arizona Cardinals flag in this sand right here. Mm-hmm. And there's a Top Golf across the street from the stadium. There is a myriad of hotels, countless restaurants, bars. What was once literally a piece of irrigation fed farmland is now this oasis in the desert that just churns cash.
Right.
the beauty of it from Jimmy Haslam's point of view is he'll own all of it. He'll get the parking. He'll get all of the revenues. And by the way, it's going to be a dome because it's not just going to be 10 dates a year.
Right.
It's going to be 50 to 100 dates a year. Major conferences.
Oh, we'll get a Super Bowl.
Concerts.
They'll give
we
us
will
Super Bowl.
absolutely get a Super Bowl from jump. We will be awarded a Super Bowl.
Who gets that revenue? Is it the city of Cleveland or Brook Park?
Well, that's to be determined. We don't know yet, and I'm not sure how all of that will play out. There's going to be a lot of negotiations and a lot of layers to this. But I think Jimmy initially started down this road and said, I'm going to play a game of chicken, and I'm going to say I'm looking at a piece of land, and the city's going to cave. By the way, of note, yesterday Washington announced they're not moving the hockey team and the football team to Virginia.
Right. Chicago Bears.
Same thing with
moving.
Chicago.
Yeah.
We've seen these negotiations take place, and they're high-stakes games of chicken, politically and professionally. I think what happened along the way was Jimmy said, let's start, we'll throw some breadcrumbs out that we're really going to move the team, and then the city will cave and give us what we wanted. But I think along the way, Jimmy started thinking and saying, as much as I'd like for them to pay for it, maybe the long-term best financial play is for us to actually do this. But for me to gain all of the piles of money and pull them into my empire. And he would control again, because he bought that area, he now can sell it to developers. So immediately he turns that investment on its head, because that land, which was worth nominal, I mean, he paid a good chunk for it, but immediately when he says I'm putting the Browns there, those parcels of 1 acre lands for residential or for commercial skyrocket in value.
If you're Mayor Bibb, what I'm doing is I'm taking all that money we was negotiating on that was earmarked for the stadium, and I'm going right to revitalize the shore.
So that's his plan B.
That's my cut.
Right.
I'm like, you know what? Y'all
condos,
you gonna
bluff
me?
restaurants.
I'm going to take it and give it back to the people.
I'm glad you went there, because that's where I was going next.
Yeah.
So if you're the mayor, what are you doing? If you're the mayor, you're saying our waterfront is the worst used land probably in the state of Ohio. It's beautiful. Go to Chicago, see what they've done with their waterfront. Go to any city that's on the water and look what they've done. Ours is vacant, empty factories and parking lots. It's a joke.
Yeah.
He knows he's got to revitalize that area. He could come out of this smelling like a rose, because it's not like we're losing the Browns. If he was the mayor when the Browns moved to Baltimore, I wouldn't want to be in that spot. But they're not going anywhere. They're still going to be called the Cleveland Browns. They're still going to wear orange and brown. Nothing changes. We just go to a different spot 8, 9 times a year. If he wants to come out of it, how do I win here?
Yeah.
He can say, you want to move? Move. That's on you. But here's what we're doing. We're now going to make the downtown waterfront an absolute showpiece, a new renovated area that includes downtown residential, commercial. Now, you lose your biggest draw to that area for 10 days a year. But if you develop that properly, and you do with our Lake Erie front what Chicago has done with Lake Michigan, it's okay. It's okay.
Well,
you're going to be all right.
Those would be very expensive condos and all.
Yes, and it's going to churn a lot of revenue in terms of real estate tax.
Yeah.
Also, if you put 50,000 residential units or whatever, 5,000, 10,000, 15,000, you increase the city's tax base, and all of those people now need to grocery shop, they need to eat, they need to drink, they need places to spend their money. Yeah. So the city can be a winner that way, by even though they would lose the Browns, they would go to Brook Park. It might be a win-win for everybody.
If it does end up, I guess it seems unlikely, with a brand new stadium downtown, where are you putting it? Where are you putting it exactly? In the same spot?
It's a good question.
I don't know, because how would you do that logistically?
We had heard that they had scouted several downtown locations, including the spot we're sitting on right now.
This whole area, there's a lot of abandoned buildings
at 1333 Lakeside.
It's the end of civilization.
I mean, it's just it's not lakefront property. There's the railroad tracks and I-90, and then the airport, and then the lake.
Right.
So, but you still have all the inherent problems that you have over here with the parking and you're landlocked and everything else. They have looked at several, but I think all that now is out the window. Now, here's my guess. And I don't want to say that, I don't know what's a long shot and what isn't, because I can't get in Haslam's mind and see whatever he really wants is what he's going to get. If he really wants a dome stadium downtown that the city and state pay for, he's going to get it.
Yeah.
If he really wants to bite the bullet, pay for most of it himself, and do it in Brook Park, he's going to get that.
Sure.
I can't get in his mind, so I don't know exactly what he wants to say. But I will add one more thing to this conversation. On Tuesday or Wednesday of this week, I talked to a reporter from WKYC's sister station in Minneapolis, CARE TV. Very good television station known for their journalism and their excellence in journalism. I spoke with a reporter that's been there for a very long time who covered the city's discussions with the Vikings when the Wilf family decided they wanted a new stadium. Remember, they had the Metrodome, which was downtown.
Yeah.
It was antiquated. Same situation here. They had a dome.
And they paid for it with the pull tabs.
They did.
Yeah.
In fact, not only did they pay for it, I found out, I didn't know this until I did the interview with this reporter. They came to an agreement where the city basically was like, we can't afford to lose you. So they stepped up and said, we're going to do it. Now, they had enough room in the parking lot to build it there while they were still using the old Metrodome.
Right.
But what was interesting to me was it's paid off already.
Right, way ahead of schedule.
Way ahead of schedule, and largely with the pull tabs.
Yeah.
If you don't know what we're talking about, it's the things that seem to be like crack when people, they love them.
Now,
it's a lottery game.
Jason did make the point that Minnesota does not have legal gambling, and we do, so maybe
that might be a difference,
but
because we can bet on other things.
Right.
Minnesota, basically, all the people that were, all the legalized betting that was going on was to pay for the stadium, which was paid for way ahead of schedule. Now, I think their cost was $1.1 billion. I asked the reporter, if my memory's right, it was around $1.1 billion. Ours would be likely in the $2 billion because price of everything goes up.
Yep.
So I just think that all this really is dependent on what Jimmy and Dee want to do. Do they want to be downtown and they want the city to pay for it? I think that might be priority one, just because they wouldn't have to write the check up front. But priority two, I think, is looking better and better to them. And Jim Donovan, who has his ear to the ground when it comes to all issues with Cleveland Browns, he is reporting and told me earlier this week that he thinks that Jimmy's of the mindset that he's ready to go. Now, look, that could be false information that they're sending out there to ratchet up the pressure on the city. But one way or another, I think what Jimmy wants, Jimmy is going to get.
But it'll happen by the end of the decade because the lease is up in
28 or 9.
I think it's 8.
Yeah. Now, how would they play in the stadium? I think they drop this one.
Yeah.
No telling when this is going to come to fruition. Yeah. But as soon as they know it's going to happen, the moment that season ends, they'll implode that old one, clear the site, and start construction. Well, they're going to have to. That takes 2 years.
Right.
So likely you're looking at least one season, and perhaps 2, playing somewhere else. What are the options?
Columbus.
Off the top of my head, the Horseshoe. Yeah. It does seat 100,000 people.
Yeah.
Fans here wouldn't like it because they'd have to travel 2 hours to go down there. Remember, don't forget this: the Haslams have Columbus ties. They are owners of the Columbus Crew.
Right.
So that might not be too far out of the realm of reasonability. The other one that I don't know if this is likely or not, but what does the Hall of Fame Stadium hold in Canton?
23,
Tom
24,
Benson Stadium.
24, something
okay,
like that.
not big enough.
That's pretty small.
Not big enough. And the revenue lost would be substantial.
And that is the one big advantage.
Can you think of anywhere else they could play?
Not that's,
real quick,
fans would be happy about. Go ahead.
Because I touched on this on one of my episodes, and I actually know somebody that served as part of the city council for the city of Cleveland for about 10, 12 years. And what she told me is, in her opinion, it would be economically catastrophic if the Cleveland Browns were to leave downtown Cleveland.
Yeah.
But
I don't think that's hyperbole.
There's no current place to put a new stadium, and there's no place for the Browns to play. We got a few minutes. Jay, I thought you laid out your argument very well. I just want to read this and give you my thoughts. The median household income in Cleveland for 2024 is $33,678. This information comes from Rent Cafe. The average annual household income in Cleveland is $49,942, with the median wage for residents ages 25 to 44 at $38,993. Okay? Cleveland ranks top 3 as one of the poorest major cities in all of America. Jay, you want to know where our mayor's from? He's from the Moore's Black Projects.
Yeah.
Meaning that everybody that stayed in that project housing they never seen $33,000.
I know.
You see what I'm saying?
I know.
So for me, and this is a very
Are you familiar with that area?
Very much so.
Yeah.
So this is a very unsophisticated take. But if I'm a young black mayor in a poor city and I grew up in the projects and I know that most of the season ticket holders are not even residents of the city of Cleveland, I just have a hard time telling my residents that you got to help foot the bill for a stadium that you can't even afford to take a family of 4 to.
Earl, to your point, not only are the majority of residents not season ticket holders, the majority of the residents don't have enough disposable income to pay for one parking spot for one game.
And that's why, in my opinion, if I'm him, I'm
and that
looking
goes to
at
your
this
point,
like,
by the way.
Like how? How can you ask me to go pay for that?
Well,
it's a tough sell. It's a very tough sell. He's in a tough spot.
Because if he's, as Jay said, if he's looking for further aspirations to move up, his constituency is not the ones that are going to put him in that office.
I will say, you're right, and that's sadly, that's the way politics on that scale work. But I will say this. He took an oath, and I believe him to be a really fine man. He is a man of upstanding moral compass. I think he's a really good man, and I think he probably undeniably has bigger political aspirations. Maybe I'm naive, but the way I view this is, if he does the right thing by his constituents here, even though it might in the long run alienate more of the voters he would need to hold a statewide office, if he does the right thing to his constituents, he can always, as the kids say today, stand on his business of saying this when he campaigns for bigger offices. Go ask my constituents if I did right by them. And I'll do the same thing when I hold a statewide office. I will then take into account all of the needs and desires of all of my constituents. But right now, he is sworn to serve the residents of Cleveland, Ohio.
There's no easy answer on this situation.
It's not. It's tough. And I thought your line summed it up best, Bull, because I feel exactly the same way. If the team has never played anywhere but downtown. If the team moves, there will be a huge part of me that is very, very sad about that. But progress is progress. It's change. And who knows? 5 years after the team moves to Brook Park, you could take a poll, and the predominant answer might be, I can't believe we used to play the games down there. Tune in to Channel 3. We're going to WKYC next.